Will Billy Edwards get to 3,000 yards, 25 plus touchdowns? We're going to tell you next what we think. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Thank you for joining us today. We are talking stats. Will Billy Edwards get to 3,000 yards? Who are the leading receivers? We're going to give you exactly how many receptions we think every player is going to get. Thank you for making this your first stop every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now. Rajiv, we are so close to the season starting. We've been talking about it for so long. Let's pick the stats down to the reception, down to the yard.
I love this. This just makes it feel real, right? It's like this. We're actually talking about, hey, we're like next weekend, we're going to actually have real stats to talk about. Like, this is going to be awesome.
It's been a long off season.
Yes.
It's been a long off season. So we're going to try to pick exactly how many yards this passing offense is going to produce and then break it down into exactly how many receptions that means from Benny Anthony all the way down to Dekel Crowdis. We're going to tell you what we think is going to happen. Let's start passing offense. So just for some context, last year, Jeff Grimes, the passing offense at Kansas, threw for 2,500 yards, 2,505. Last year at Maryland, Billy Edwards threw for 2,881 yards. What do you think the passing offense produces this year?
Yeah, so I have it at 20. I did a kind of a round number, but 2,800 is my passing number. I thought about, like, could we have a 3,000 year? I think, sure, we could. But 28 just seems like a good number. It's basically what Billy Edwards has, as you mentioned, last year. And I think he'll, another year of experience. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to produce that again.
I went under. So I went Billy Edwards 2,650, 24 touchdowns on 235 our completions. I know what he did last year. I also know Maryland has been top 4 passing yardage in the Big Ten every year under Mike Locksley. That they just put up passing yardage. It's not always efficient. I don't know if that's replicable with this schedule and with us wanting to run the ball. So I went a little lower on Billy Edwards. I did factor in a couple hundred yards for Daniel O'Neal, who I think is probably going to get some run. Hopefully not because of injury, but hopefully because we're blasting Miami of Ohio into smithereens. I do think there's some yardage there. But for Billy, I'm going 2,650, 24 touchdowns.
So I went 250 receptions and 25 touchdowns. Again, I recognize my numbers are a little rounder. For the exercise we did, it kind of helped it to be a little rounder, but I really do think that's generally speaking where it's going to end up. So 25 touchdowns.
If he gets 25, again, I'm at 26, 24, 25 touchdowns. We're very close on touchdowns. I have 24, you have 25. End of the year, that's successful.
It's what it really means is that the passing offense worked, right? Which we didn't have last year, an offensive system that worked. Like, if you get 2,800 yards and we're going to be rushing the ball as well, like, that really does put you in a situation where, okay, like, we should have been a bit more successful than maybe others feared we might not be.
Did you factor schedule into this at all?
I did, but I also realized that, like, you know what, I'm just not going to dig too deep into it because, yeah, you could pick it apart and be like, okay, we're not going to throw that much on this team. We're not going to throw that much on this team. So, I think at the end of the day, what a lot of the defenses in the Big Ten do really well is stop the run. And in some of my research over the last few months of looking at other teams we're going to play, stopping the run is a thing that they really do well. And I do feel like a lot of the people I spoke with from other teams kind of said, oh, our secondary is a little bit, unknown. I think we might be able to pass the ball more than you would think against that schedule.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I didn't factor it in that heavily. I did want to ask you, did you look or put a projection out there for interceptions, Billy? You have 25 touchdowns. I have 24.
10.
So that would actually 25 to 10, 2.5 touchdown interception ratio would be, I think, a great year for Billy Edwards.
Yeah, I'm chalking it up to, and of course, I've changed my mind on this like 100 times. I keep going up all around, but I ultimately chalk it up to the fact that he's experienced and he's in a Grimes system that is a quarterback-friendly system. And I feel like, the reads are a little bit easier. I feel like he's gonna have a lot of help. He's theoretically gonna have be throwing to some open guys on routes that are easier to throw potentially. I just feel like it is an offense that should minimize mistakes, especially with an experienced quarterback like Billy Edwards. So 25 and 10.
dude, sign me up. Like if we get 25-10, I think this team is winning 8 games. I really do think
Yeah.
I think if you get that type of quarterback play, because if you were to look it up, and I'll look this up after the show to verify. I bet you that touchdown interception ratio would be top 4 in the Big Ten last year. 2.5.
You think so? 2.5, really? Wow.
I don't think college quarterbacks are very good.
Yeah. So maybe it's probably gonna maybe my 10 is low and it should be 12 or 13. But I'm gonna stick with 10 because it's optimistic week. It's the week to be optimistic, man.
No argument there. I went a little higher just because I know decision making has at times been a bit of a bugaboo for Billy. Yeah. I still don't love our tackles in pass pro, which I think could lead to some pass rush. We know we're playing some fearsome front fours. I went about 24-12, 24, maybe 13, something like that, which is still fine. Dude, 25-10, I'm telling you, we're winning 8 games and we're celebrating in the streets because we're knocking off somebody that is going to raise some eyebrows nationally. Look, bro, if you lose, I mean, not to digress, but I love digressing sometimes. If you lose 4 games, you win 8 games with this schedule. Depending on who those losses are and how you lose them, I'm just saying you could be on the fringe conversation for a playoff spot if they care about strength of schedule.
Yeah. I mean, my mind immediately went to, it didn't go to the playoff. It went to, wow, look, what can we be next year? If we win 8 games with this team now, what could we be like with a better schedule? And yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's probably, if we're talking playoff, it's 3. I think you got to be 9 wins. Just because maybe with the schedule that we have, potentially that's true, but you're probably going to have to win 9 to get to the playoff.
I would agree with you. I think 9 gets you in. Would you agree, barring any weird blowout losses? Like you can't lose 42-10 to Iowa and get in the playoffs, probably.
For sure.
But close games, you win 9 games. The Badgers, I think, are in the playoffs with this schedule.
Yeah, 100%. If they win 9 games, they are, because that means they would have beaten some really good teams. Even if you lose to Bama, Ohio State, and Oregon, and you beat everybody else, you're beating Michigan, you're beating Iowa, you're beating Indiana, you're beating Illinois. Like that's putting you in the playoff for sure.
So let me ask you this follow-up, because I kind of asked you that knowing what your answer would be. If 9 wins, again, this context dependent, how you win, how you lose. If 9 wins 100% guarantees get you in the playoffs, 4 wins probably gets you in some type of weird discussion, is all I'm saying. Or 8 wins, sorry.
You're right. You're right. I agree with you. Discussion, you're right. I meant in the playoffs. I don't think you're in the playoffs, but you're in the discussion, no doubt. Like you're up there. But you're right about like the timing of it too, right? I mean, you've got to win one of those early games, right? I mean, you got to beat Michigan on the road if you're going to have that. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to beat Michigan. So if you beat Michigan and then you beat Iowa, then all of a sudden you're ratcheting up that top 25, and then you're already in that discussion. So yeah, be in the discussion for sure.
Okay, let's move on. Sorry, I derailed our entire. But it was worth it. Like 25-10 gets you 8 wins, and that might, dude. We'll say that for a later date. So we're actually pretty close on Billy. Leading receiver. We'll go back and forth on this. We kind of rank these in order of receptions. I think on some of these we're going to be very similar. On some of them we're probably going to be a way off. I have Vinny as the leading receiver. I've got 57 receptions, 835 yards, 7 touchdowns for Vinny Anthony.
Okay. So yeah, I've gone back and forth about who I thought would be the leading receiver. I still think that it's a very strong possibility that Tretch leads the team in receptions. However, I did not project that. I projected Vinny 700 yards on 50 catches for 6 touchdowns. Probably similar. So somewhat similar to you. So yeah, I think he's a leading receiver. I mean, I had to spread the yards out a little bit more because I didn't want to get other guys involved. So I kept pulling yards away from Vinny when I was doing my stuff. But yeah, I think 700. I guess ultimately what you'll see from my list is I do think the ball's going to get spread out a little bit. I know it's easy to say that now and it's likely not going to happen, but I just feel like with this system and with an experienced quarterback, you're just going to have a little bit more spray than you would with an inexperienced guy. Like it's all how well he gels with these guys, and everything you hear from camp and stuff. He is doing that. I think that bodes well for spreading the ball around a little bit.
I think that's a fair point. I think there's a lot of viable guys in this rotation that you can look at and you can say, I can see the path for that player to be successful in this offense, either because of physical skill set or because of what they've done in camp. But I almost went the other way. I almost looked at it like, I think there's one proven guy here. I was almost in some ways taking yards from other guys and saying, we know Vinny's good. I don't really know about anybody else for sure. Yep. So I can see it either way. And I think that's what makes this passing offense really interesting this year is there's a lot of potential options here, but there's not a lot of potential. There's not a lot of proven guys yet. And we're going to have to see who kind of steps up this year. We're going to take a quick second. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Tretch. I want to know how many receptions and yards Rajiv has for his boy Eugene Hilton Jr. We're going to see what that's like. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Rugiet. Listen, guys, I know this isn't always the easiest thing to talk about. You've probably heard of Viagra. You've probably heard of Cialis. You've probably heard of some of those type of treatments. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain, boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast on average in 15 minutes, and the effects can last up to 36 hours. So you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. And the moment might be right after next Thursday, after they pace Miami, Ohio. That might be the moment. You're going to want to be ready. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and it's completely online. They connect you with a board-certified doctor and ship your treatment discreetly to your door. Head over to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege and you can get 15% off. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved. Do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Also, an important announcement, important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and what makes your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to improve what we do. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can find the link in our show notes. Thank you for helping us out. Appreciate you so much. All right, Rajiv, I'm going to let you start off this next one. Who's your number 2 receiver here?
That would be Mr. Trech Kekahuna. I got him for 610 yards, 46 receptions, 5 touchdowns. I think it's going to be a battle between who actually is the leading receiver on the team, and it's between these two guys, in my opinion. I believe in Trech. I think some people may not believe in him as much as I do at this point. But I'm choosing to think that he is going to have like a stellar year. I just feel like he fits really well in with Grimes. We all were so hyped on what we saw from him coming out of high school. And I think this is the year that we see the real Trech Kekahuna. And I'm choosing to believe that. Like, if he leads the team in yards and receptions, I won't be surprised at all. I really feel like he's going to have a breakout year.
You are higher on him than I am. Which is, you're not wrong. We were really excited about him when he came in. I thought the high school film was great. The level of competition he played at. I've been a little underwhelmed. Is probably not fair, right? Because he's dealt with injuries, and we all know last year's offense under Phil Longo, the passing game wasn't very good, and you had Will Pauling ahead of him. I think the scenario for him to have a breakout year is there. You could say Will Pauling's gone. That opens up how many catches did Will Pauling snag out of the slot, right? If he can eat up a bunch of those, we know he can be explosive in the open field. I worry a little bit about his finesse as a receiver. Like, I think over the couple years, one thing, Coach Anderson has done a good job of this, kind of breaking down film with all 22, seeing the route tree, talking about some of the sloppiness he has, maybe as a route runner that hasn't fully come along. He's had some drops at times. I don't know. I have him a little lower. I think that's our first major break in this, but I definitely can hear you. Like, he's a weapon, and you want to get weapons the ball. Number 2, I have Mason actually coming in, 41 receptions, 453 yards, and 5 touchdowns for the new tight end, who I don't know if do you think it hurts him that Tucker got hurt? Like, he'll have to stay in the block more, where maybe if Tucker Ashcraft was there, maybe he can be more of just a full-time receiving tight end.
Focusing on just receiving. Yeah, it probably did. But I think there's other guys. I think we're going to see Grant Steck doing some of that stuff. We're going to see Jackson Aker in there. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be an impactful piece of the team for sure. He's my number 3 guy. So I'm right there with you. I got him at 32 catches for Mason, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think he's definitely going to be up there. He's not ahead of the yards guy that's 4th, but he's my 3rd highest in receptions.
And how many touchdowns did he have for Trech?
5 touchdowns for Trech.
Okay, and you had 4 for Mason. So we're both looking at Mason as a guy in the red zone. They're going to try to find him. He's going to be a big weapon for us. I think we're on point there. Who is your 3rd guy?
So Mason is my 3rd guy, 32 catches. So it's Vinny, Trech, then Mason.
Okay, who's your 4th guy then?
That's Jaden Ballard.
Interesting. Okay, I love it.
Yeah. So Ballard, I've got 395 yards. So more yards than Mason, but less catches, 30 catches. I think he'll just, his yards per catch will be a little bit higher because I think he's a bit more of a deep threat. Only 3 touchdowns for Ballard. And there's a couple guys that I have with 3 touchdowns. But yeah, so if there is a guy that I feel like the hype kind of went up a little bit, and now I'm kind of like, it's Jaden Ballard. And nothing against the guy. I think he's going to be a critical piece of if nothing else, just spacing out the defense a little bit and providing decoys and running good routes. But I haven't really, we haven't heard great stuff on him yet. And it's just maybe it's just a feeling, maybe it's some reports, maybe it's what happened at Ohio State. I don't know that he's going to have he's not going to be a top boundary guy for us. I think he's going to have pretty average numbers.
You and I are very similar on Ballard. Ballard's next for me, 33 receptions. I think you had 30.
Yeah.
435 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
Very similar. I have a hard time seeing a bunch more. I think his route tree is maybe a little limited, right? I think it's not as diverse as a guy like Vinny. Probably not a guy you're looking to get the ball in space as much as a guy like Tretch. I think Lance Mason could probably do more. So I think the route tree is more limited there, which limits the receptions. I do think there's going to be a couple 40-yard plays, maybe a 50-yard play, something like that. Not as much as maybe we thought coming out of spring. And I agree with you on that point.
So you've got Vinny, Mason, Tretch, Ballard. Is that how your 4 goes?
I go
receptions.
I go Vinny, Mason, Ballard. Tretch is right behind Ballard. So
okay.
Tretch I have for 32, 404. So I'm about half of what you have for receptions, right? A little less, a little more than half. But again, I wonder, my biggest question with Tretch, and I would love to be wrong, because I think if you can find the way to consistently get him the ball in spots, I think he's going to be a problem. I think Tretch's best attribute is his ability after the catch, the ability to be explosive after the catch. So if you can get him the ball, I think it's going to be a problem. I just worry if he's consistent and refined enough as a receiver to not be a bit of a gadget guy this year. I think that part of his game may still be catching up.
Yeah, that could be. I see him catching so many balls on mesh routes and over the middle type passes and short stuff and kind of, matriculate the ball up the field kind of receptions, which is why I think his yards won't be there as much, but it's still going to be high for me, 6'10". But yeah, I really believe he'll be a critical part of the offense. And I think we're going to see it first thing on Thursday too. I think Thursday we're going to see Tretch have a good game.
I hope we see it. Dude, I just can't get over how excited I am for this. Out of that first group of players, right? Vinny, Ballard, Mason, Tretch. Who did you have the hardest time kind of ranking, putting numbers to?
Yeah, I think it's Ballard, because I wanted to be higher on him. And I just felt like everything I've heard from, whether it was Big Ten Media Days or practice reports, things like that, Mason seems to really be sort of climbing the reliability factor and the connection with Billy Edwards. So that's where Mason kind of jumped up over Ballard in my head. And that's why it was hard to assign numbers to Ballard more than anything else.
By the way, you and I are going to clip this when Ballard has 65 receptions and
Bring
300 yards. Right?
Bring it, bud. Heck yeah, let's go.
Big Ten newcomer of the year. Who do you have after this grouping that we just talked about?
Okay, so again, we are ranking by receptions, right? We're going down the receptions order. So receptions for me next is Darian Dupree. I just feel like Dupree is going to be a super weapon out of the backfield. Similar to Tretch, I think he's going to get a lot of short stuff. So I only have him down for like 180 yards. It's not a lot of yards. It's just kind of he's going to be a release valve. It's going to be out in the slot. Out kind of in the flat a little bit. So yeah, Dupree, 20 catches for me, 2 touchdowns for Dupree. Reception, receiving. Yeah. We're
remarkably close. Dupree's my next one as well for the same reasons. I think he's at receiving outlet, 18 receptions, 225, 2 touchdowns. It gets really hard when you do this exercise on paper. It seems easy, but as you start to go down, you're like, gosh, I really love Dupree. I think he'd be great in the open field. Yeah. And then you look at the receptions you've already given to people. You're like, I have nothing for him. I don't know what to do with this.
It is a fun exercise. I challenge people, the listeners, you should do this. It's kind of fun to figure out where you think people will be, and keep it. I'm going to save it, and then look at how awful I did at the end of the year. Right? It's gonna be fun.
Or how dead on we were. Next up, after Dupree, I have Hilton. So I have your boy Hilton after Dupree. I've got 14 receptions, 151. And I just think it's an exercise when you really start to rack and stack this. I really like Hilton, but dude, I know Vinny's going to get the ball. I know Ballard and Mason and Tretch, and I don't know if there's a ton left for Hilton bar an injury.
Yeah. So first of all, I think that, you're never expecting any injuries, but the one thing that we heard is that Hilton clearly is working his way into the mix, and that is super impressive already. I would not have given him the number I gave him if it was just if I hadn't heard that. Like, he's clearly, everything you hear, the route running is precise, the pedigree is there, the work ethic, it's all there. And when you see guys, I'm not comparing him to guys like Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, but when you see freshmen who can have that big of an impact, he can have a impact. It's not going to be that kind of impact, but I think he is going to be something. I have him at 19 catches, 195 yards, and 3 touchdowns from T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton from Eugene Hilton with T.Y. Hilton's pedigree.
Well, look at next year. Vinny's gone. Ballard's gone. You know, if you have a guy as a freshman who comes in and gets 19 for 203 touchdowns, that's springboarding into next year to be that number 1 on the boundary. So I think what you're seeing this year is the kind of the break the ice with Hilton. And I think next year he's poised to be the star of this offense on the edge. And I think that's going to happen. I just think there's too many bodies ahead of him this year to get a lot of receptions, barring some type of injury or some blowout situations, but you're going to run the ball in those situations anyway. So I have it a little lower, but it's not because I don't like Hilton. I just think there's too many bodies ahead of him.
One of the things I would add is a part of the reason I gave him the 19 number that I did is it's just a random prediction. I think that you could definitely see a situation where he becomes your starting boundary guy by the end of the season.
That's interesting.
I mean, because let me ask you this, like, let's say Ballard doesn't have the greatest year, and he's not, his route running isn't quite there, and he's not getting separation, and he's not getting open. And you're going to bring in another guy to be your starting boundary guy. Who would you think that would be? I mean, I think it's probably going to be Hilton. Maybe it's Brooks, but do you really see Brooks as a starting, wide guy? I just feel like there definitely is a scenario that could play out where Hilton is starting and in November.
Yeah, by like week 6 or week 7, something like that, he works. Listen, it wouldn't shock me. I know Brooks is a guy that they played a lot with the 1s and 2s in practice. Like, so they definitely look at him. It's a different role than Hilton, but they like him for what he can do, the consistency there. Hilton's a much more natural receiver. Like, Brooks has some issues with the hands. So yeah, it's possible. I think they like the idea of Ballard a lot. It's almost like if you get, a really nice car, maybe it takes a lot of work, maybe it's not as reliable, but you really like the idea of it, so you want to use it. I think they like the idea of that size speed combo out there to pair with Vinny. It's a really nice, if it works, it's a really nice compliment, right? That size speed guy on one side and the consistent guy on the other side, and then Tretch in the slot, it makes sense. But you're not wrong. If he's not consistent enough, that size speed doesn't matter at that point.
And then when there's more of a natural receiver back there, and he's your other wide out, like all of a sudden you've got 2 solid, real, like technically sound receivers, right? And I think it could really work.
Man, it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to take one more quick second. We're going to come back, wrap it up, and then I'm going to ask Rajiv on rushing totals. I wrote those down as well. I'm going to tell him if I'm too high or I'm going to ask him if I'm too high or too low on Dylan Jones, Darian Dupree, and Cade Yakimelli. All that's coming up next, Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. It's that time of the year, buddy. We get to bet on college football. We get to bet on the NFL. Summer's still going on, so you still have baseball and soccer and all this stuff, but FanDuel is here for you, whatever you got going on, and we know football's around the corner. FanDuel is the ultimate sports book, all the type of action you're going to look for, live in-game betting, which I really like too, because if the game gets out of hand, you can still bet in the game itself and keep your attention, keep the excitement up, any type of action you want. Rajiv, you and I talked about it. Bet the over, 5.5.
Got to take it, man. I mean, you got to believe. If you're going to believe at some point, this is the week to do it. Go do it on FanDuel. Place your bet.
Yep. And first-time customers, $5 bet. If you win it, you get $150 in bonus bets over at FanDuel. Open the FanDuel app today. Create the account. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Rajiv, who's up next on your list as we kind of continue punching through this?
So I've got Tyrell Henry at 12 catches and 150 yards. I think, Henry was a guy who's been talked about a little bit, certainly backing up the slot, bit of a gadget guy at times. If there's any kind of an injury, I feel like he's going to be the guy that kind of steps in and can cover the outside, but mainly the slot. And I see a lot of production out of the slot. If you haven't picked up on that, I think that this is going to be even though you thought that was more in the Longo thing, I feel like Grimes is really going to utilize that position.
Yeah, I was just going to say, man, Longo's down in Sam Houston. I have Henry for 6 and 58. I do think he'll get a couple. He was a guy I started off higher when I was doing my numbers, and then I just had to get more receptions to Vinny. So I just had to shuffle things around. but they like him. They definitely like Henry. He's kind of explosive, actually, north and south. They like him on special teams, too. He's a different dynamic in the slot than Tretch. Tretch is built a little bigger, a little thicker. I think a little better in open space, but I think Henry might be a little more explosive north-south, actually. So they do like him. I have him at 6. Why don't we just wrap up the rest of our list here?
Shoot. Yeah, go for it.
So I've got Dylan Jones at 12
for
132 and 1. I've got Chris Brooks for 9 and 65. Jackson Aker for 9 and 67 and a touchdown. I think he's going to sneak out of the flat and get like 1 touchdown in some random game. They like him a lot. And then I have Yakimelli for 5 and 45.
Okay.
Where are you at for the kind of round with your list?
Okay, so for me, I finished it at Henry, right? So I've got Chris Brooks with 9 catches.
We're dead on.
100 yards. I've got Dylan Jones, 8 catches for 50 yards, just kind of some small stuff. I have Dekel Crowdus listed as a guy because I have him 5 for 115 because I just feel like one's going to be like some long bomb, 60-yard touchdown, and then the other ones will be a little bit shorter. And then I also have Joe Griffin with 5 catches for 75 yards. And then I've got the other is 12 catches, which is like everybody else, KBJ, maybe Yakimelli, and someone that you had. Like Aker can be in that group.
Steck would be in that group. Like just randomness. Emmett Bork at the end of a blowout could catch one. Yeah, Dekel's interesting, man. That's a really good call out. He probably will catch like 160-yard bomb this year and then a couple other random ones. There was a play in Platteville when I was watching. They're doing one-on-ones, and I hesitate to even – I don't remember who it was against. I was going to say I hesitate to even put the name out there. He pulled away from that cornerback like a jet ski from a pontoon. I mean, he has really easy speed, but he's just small. And I don't know if he was bigger, he'd be at Bama or something, right, with that type of speed. He's interesting, though. He could catch a bomb. You're not wrong on that one. I probably should have broke him out. I think Aker. So I think the couple that were most – let's talk about the few we're most separate on, then we'll talk rushing stats quick. I think you're much higher on Tretch than I am. I think I'm a little higher on Jackson Aker than you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little lower on Hilton, and I think I'm a little higher on Vinny.
Yeah, and I think Vinny's still gonna have a big year for sure. I just think it's gonna get spread out a little bit more. Look, and I really hope I'm right about Tretch. I know that many people would probably disagree with me on Tretch. I just feel like if it's not gonna be this year, it's not gonna happen for him, and I want it so bad to happen for him, and because I really want him to be the guy that we thought he was gonna be, and I think he is. So yeah, I feel pretty good there. We were pretty aligned on like Mason and Ballard, right? We felt pretty good about that. So I think, and I do Crowdus and Griffin. I think that both those guys. I like that you can look at the receivers and you can see 6 deep. And I'm not saying it's 6 great receivers, but I think six of those receivers are actually going to get legitimate catches and legitimate snaps.
End of the year, one of these guys blows your projection out of the water. Who is it?
Ooh, boy, that's a tough one. I would probably say Vinny, if anyone. If Vinny could end up with 1,000 yards for all we know. And because he was already really good. If he takes a step, and all of a sudden he and Billy Edwards are like this, then yeah, he could blow everything out of the water.
Vinny's a good one. I'm actually going to go with your guy Hilton. To your point, and people have talked to him in the Discord, a couple different people in the Discord as well. It wouldn't be shocking to see him overtake Ballard with the momentum he's built through camp, with the pedigree he has. He's a very net. He looks like a sophomore. He looks like a redshirt sophomore. He doesn't look like a freshman. If he's shows that ability, and if Ballard slips just a little bit, I think he's the type of guy, let me rephrase it this way. I think he's the type of guy, if you give him the starting spot, he's never going to let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's that type of guy.
Yeah, and I think he's like we've all talked about how like refined his ability is, and he's going to get some looks early. And if he runs a quick good route, and all of a sudden there's a great catch over the middle, people are like, yeah, he should just play, and he'll overtake it. He can overtake it fairly quickly, but that's why I gave him 19 catches. I just think he's going to be starting at some point.
Yeah, he'd be my guy that I think could blow my projections out of the water. Let me throw you my rushing numbers, and you just tell me on this one. We're going to do a different direction, which I think is going to be fun. I'm going to give you my rushing numbers for each guy. You tell me if I'm too high, too crazy, or too low, too moronic, whatever it is, whatever you want to throw in there. Dylan Jones leads this rushing attack, 1,050 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that's right on the money. I mean, I would have probably put him at 1,000 yards. I would like to think that it's going to be more spread out and Cade Yakimelli is going to have huge numbers. But it sounds like everything we're hearing, everything we're seeing, everything we saw in his high school film, like Dylan Jones is the next great Badger running back. And yeah, 1,000 yards sounds right on the money, man. I like it.
How about 5.5 yards per carry?
I mean, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I think he's going to have the break. He's going to break some, but he's also going to run into the line against Ohio State's defensive front, Michigan's defensive front, Iowa's defensive front. So yeah, I think that's still good numbers though. I think that's right on the money. I like those.
Darren Dupree, 320, 5.2 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns.
I would like to think that Darren Dupree is going to be higher. I'd like to say that you're a little bit low on this because I have said consistently that I think people are forgetting about Dupree. But there's only so many yards to go around. So I'm going to say you're officially too low on Dupree's yards. I think the yards per carry sounds about right, but I feel like he's going to get more. He's going to be a bit more involved.
Okay, I think it's fair. I was trying to, in my head, mesh these two, right? Because we've separated the passing and the rushing out. But I was thinking, man, if you're going to get 2,700 passing yards and then 1,000-yard rusher, we're up to 3,700 yards already of total offense, throwing 300 to 400 from Dupree. We're at 4,000 against this schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I started to because I initially had Dupree a little higher. And then I think when you look at the big picture, you're like, gosh, that's a lot of yards for an offense. I mean, I know a lot of things have changed, but that's a lot. And then I still had Yakimelli at 225, 5.8 per carry, 2 touchdowns. And it kills my soul that I don't have him for more, but I just think they're going to give the 2 top guys most of the reps.
How many carries do you have Yakimelli getting?
So I didn't break it down by carries. I have 225 yards, 5.8 per carry.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like 5.8 per carry again it's great. It's a great number from him. And I think he probably will have that. I agree with how good Jones is and how good Dupree is. He's probably still not going to get the carries that he deserves. Yeah. Thank you just for staying here. He's going to be a huge part of the team. And maybe he does surprise us and overrun those. And maybe Jones doesn't have 1,000-yard season and he's more like 800 and some of those yards are spread out and Dupree gets more of them. I'm okay with that. I don't need there to be a 1,000-yard rusher. I think that we might. I also would say that a lot of these stats, especially the numbers that we're throwing out there, it really depends on those first 2 games. We have to blow it out. We've got to really put up some of those big numbers have to happen early in the season, which by the way, it's not just about, padding stats. It happens everywhere in college football. Like that's how a lot of these stats come in games like that. We're going to have to blow these teams out, which we hope we will. We didn't do that last year because we weren't that good. And so it'll kind of tell you how good we can be, but we're going to have to get some of those stats early.
And last, when I have Aker getting about 70 and 2 touchdowns, I think he's going to get a couple short yardage touchdowns, but I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, I could see it being 40 yards that he gets, which would still be good. That's fine because he's getting him 2 or 3 yards at a time. No problem.
Dude, love it. Absolutely butter. Killed it. He is Rugiet from the Bucky Report. I am Ryan Herring's Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll clip this show. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Like the receipts are going to be there. So we'll go back. We'll take a look at how we did with all this on Wisconsin. Season's a couple days away and can't wait. Talk later.